live right now. So I'm pleased and so excited to introduce you. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. We just returned from our break, and I can't believe we're wrapping things up already. So this has been a really great week, and we're so excited to be sharing the final moments with you, and we're thankful to have you with us. It's my pleasure to introduce Betsy Craig. She's an award-winning leader, CEO, speaker, and author living with scleroderma. Today, Betsy owns and operates a $1 million groundbreaking leading restaurant consulting company, Menu Trinfo LLC, protecting lives and health through food allergy and food safety training and nutrition. To get to this point, Betsy has lived by 10 principles that are the key ingredients in her recipe for success. They've helped her navigate through challenges and celebrate triumphs. No matter where you are in your life, these principles and the discussion of them will empower you to live and lead with purpose. In her session filled with honest stories, humor, and practical advice, we're looking forward to being provided with the courage, tools, and inspiration to fulfill our destiny and to supercharge our success, making everyone unstoppable. So Betsy, welcome. Thank you for being with us. I see you've got your slides up already, which is great. Thank you. And I will give you the floor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, John, and to the entire team for allowing me to be a piece of your conference. Yeah, just thanks.
Of course, John's here actually, Betsy. He said,
great.
Thank you. So
he's giving the high five. So, you know, everything is different in Zoom. I can't tell if you can hear me or not. I'm just assuming you can. So I'm going to depend upon the moderator here to kick it in if my voice gets wavery or it goes away or all of a sudden technology doesn't.
I got you, Betsy.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you. The year was 2003. I had just gotten married. I was at a pool party with a couple girlfriends in Maryland. And one of my friends, I've known her for a long time. She grabs a hold of my hand, which at that point is swollen. It almost looked like I had a boxer's glove on my hand. And she said, "What's going on with your hands?" I looked at my hand and I thought, I really don't know. It's been getting swollen and some of the fingers hurt, but I had absolutely no idea what was going on. You see, that was August of 2003. In March of 2003, a few months before, I married my best friend. And by May of 2003, I had a DVT, a blood clot in my leg. Went from my belly button down to my ankle. I thought it was going to kill me. They thought it was going to kill me. It didn't kill me. I think I'm a cat sometimes. But I get to this pool party. My friend Claudia grabs my hand. We don't know what's going on. And she just dead looked in the eyes. You know when somebody looks at you and just makes a point? She made a point. She said, "I don't care what else happens in your life. You need to go to a doctor that will help you understand what's going on." That was 2003. It took 18 months for me to find out what was going on with my hands. I don't know about people in the room or people in the audience, but I got told everything. I think I had like 6 or 7 diagnoses before I got the diagnosis of scleroderma. And I'd like to say it was a calm, comfortable process to learn what was going on with me. But rare diseases and tough diseases aren't necessarily easy to diagnose. Sometimes I think that's why we call it a medical practice. You know, the physicians are doing the very, very best they can and try to figure out what's going on with somebody like me. Fast forward to 2005, and I'm sitting in a doctor's office. I'm sitting on the exam table. I'm in one of those cotton tops, you know, that's supposed to cover me. Doesn't always cover me. I'm stuck to the paper. And in the door opens and in walks a woman. I had expected a guy. It was It was a practice that dealt with autoimmune diseases, rheumatologist, and I was expecting him, and it turns out it was his nurse practitioner, which was fine. She walks in and she's got papers in her hand, and she says, she looks down and shaking her head no, and she looks up at me and she says, "I'm so sorry." And I thought, oh, this can't be good. When they start with "I'm sorry," it's probably not good. And she just kind of looks me also dead in the eye, like my buddy Claudia had done about 18 months before that. And she goes, Really sorry." She said, "Basically, you have scleroderma. The type you have is going to affect and is affecting your internal organs. Pretty much you have 12 to 18 months to live. And I really suggest you start getting your affairs in order." Well, you ever sit somewhere when all the air gets sucked out of the room? Like, that's exactly how I felt at that moment. She kept talking, but I have no idea what she was saying. I couldn't hear her. I couldn't follow what she was saying. All that I could think about was I had just married Rocky. I had just found the man I loved. You know, he was my third marriage. He is my third marriage still to this day, all these years later. In my case, the third time was a charm. And I had a 14-year-old daughter who I wanted to watch graduate from high school. And all that kept going through my head was 12 to 18 months, 12 to 18 months. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I do what any good self-respecting woman does. I put my bra and panties in my purse and I got out of that doctor's office as fast as I could. I will let you know I never went back to that doctor. The delivery method was not what I would have liked. I don't know how they could have necessarily given it to me better. But as I'm driving home to go tell my new husband, "Hey, guess what? You married somebody who's got a defect. There's stuff going on with my hands. It's called scleroderma. It's going to kill me. And I'm sorry. Better or worse, sickness and in health, this is what sickness looks like." And I went home and I went downstairs and I told my husband, I said, "Come on up to the kitchen." I don't know why we always had those serious conversations in the kitchen, but we did around the island. And I said, "Come on upstairs. We need to talk." And he came upstairs and I said, "This is what's going on." And he knew I was upset. I had cried all the way home from the doctor's office. I don't even know how I got home. It was one of those kind of drives. And I told him what she said. And what he said to me that day, I remember as if it was today. He said, "I'm not buying it. We'll figure something out. That isn't the end all be all." You see, we had had 5 other diagnoses before that. So who knew if that was accurate? And who knew what that really was going to mean for someone like me? What I did know was I was going to have to find some inner strength I didn't even know I had. And basically, I had to find a foundation in my life that I could stand on to walk through what was in front of me when I had absolutely no idea if the light at the end of the tunnel was a train or a way out. It felt like a train that day. What I want to share with you today is some principles that I've used in my lifetime that have gotten me through many different things, and they got me through scleroderma. They get me through a day today by using these principles. None of these principles are earth-shattering, but they've applied in my life through walking through scleroderma that I hope you'll be able to take a nugget away to use in your life. My dream and hope for today, for our time together, is that I'll touch somebody's heart for 1 second today and make a difference for you. Because if living with a rare autoimmune disease, which actually isn't that rare, ends up being that I can touch your heart or make a difference for you, then it's been worth it. It's been horrible, but it's been worth it. So I'm going to run through 10 principles. I've got a clock. I won't go over. I'll try not to talk too fast. I'm from back east, so I talk real quick. And I'll take you on my journey. Sometimes I like to say, grab your seatbelt and give it a tug, because here we go. So we're going to start with courage. You would think, oh, courage is easy. Everybody's got courage. Not me, not back then. 2005, I was a negative Nancy. You know, I would not look at the glass as half empty. I was picky about which glass it was. You know, I grew up doing junior golf, and I grew up knowing which fork to use. And here I am laying on a couch, having gotten this devastating news, thinking my life was over. So I'd like to say I got courage and was ready to go from day one, right after that great nurse practitioner told me what she told me. But the truth is, I laid on that couch for about 3 months. If I could have gotten away with it, I would have sucked my thumb. I was in so much pain from my hands. I had some of those ulcers and scleroderma because the vessels get narrow in your fingers. The blood doesn't reach the ends, and sometimes we get these ulcers on the end of our fingers, and it starts to do what's basically gangrene while you're alive and while you're feeling it. It stinks. So after about 3 months of laying on the couch, I really had sort of one of those come to Jesuses with myself. You know, one of those where you're like, hey, we're either going to lay here the rest of our lives or we're going to go do something. I call it my get up or give up moment. Maybe you've had one of those. Maybe someone you love has had one of those, or someone you love today is having one of those. That is where there's like a before and an after. That's the dividing line. The before was sucking my thumb, life wasn't fair, newly married, want to watch my kid grow up. The after was, little Scooby-Doo moment. Like, what are we going to do about this? I knew laying on the couch that I was going to get up and do something cool. I just had no idea how cool it was going to be. See, all I really wanted to do was grow old with that sweet man and watch that 14-year-old graduate high school. That's all I wanted to do. I had been telling myself lies, laying on that couch for 3 months, that might not be possible. 12 to 18 months, 12 to 18 months. I figured I had till 2007. I'm 13 years past that, folks, and I'm going strong. So that's the untruth I was telling myself back then that almost dictated how I was going to live forever. I'll tell you, making the decision to get off the couch, I think might have been the hardest decision I've ever made in my life before or since. But I got this voice inside that said, if you get off this couch, you're going to do something. I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to live each day the best you possibly can. So get up. It's not time to give up. So I ask you to ask yourself, what lies are you telling yourself about your disease, about what you can and can't do? What's stopping you from letting the courage come out of all your fibers of your being and face life a little bit differently than you're facing it today? The next principle that I used was passion. Now, if you can't tell, I'm already, like, if you don't know this about me yet, let me give you just a little background. You know, I'm 56 years old tomorrow. I'm a passionate Italian woman. I am very, very hyper about my life. And since that day I got off the couch, I've been living in gratitude. And all of that's great, but I had to find some kind of passion back then that was going to drive my bus, that was going to get me through day in, day out. And what I realized was that I knew this, but I had never graduated college. And that 14-year-old daughter, I was trying to tell her, you know, go from high school to college and then maybe grad school or whatever. But I really wanted to impress upon her to go to college, but I hadn't had a college degree. I took a scenic route in my life. I went from high school to the bar business, to the restaurant business. I had a blast. And then I went straight into sales and went into the work world and mostly never turned back. So what I decided and what I got passion behind was going back to school. I remember telling Rocky, my husband, hey, what if I get a degree? What if I get a 2-year degree? I can sit on this couch or lay on this couch as I'm healing and maybe do it online or something. And I don't know, seconds and inches in my life, I managed to have things appear and I could have missed them by seconds and inches. By that, I mean, I thought, let's go to school. Then I thought, I'm going to be 45 when I graduate. And I remember telling that to Rod. I said, honey, if I go to school, I'm going to be 45 when I get done. And he looked at me and he said, babe, you're going to be 45 anyway. Do you want a degree or do you just want to be 45? Well, the seconds and inches is, turned out I had a friend that was in charge of disability services at the local community college in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I called her up and I was like, can you help me? And she said, I sure can. It's what I do. And the passion that I felt laying on that couch was about doing something besides just measuring how sick I felt each day, measuring how much pain I was in. I just had to change the voice in my head so my passion could speak louder than my fear. I had to say, I can do it. I'm not too old. I'm not too dyslexic. And I'm not too tired. So, as we spin this around for you to take something away from this talk on, what are you telling yourself you're too old to do? You're just too tired. You don't have the money, you're too poor, or you're too sick. One of the things that I know, and scleroderma taught me this to my toes, we get this one precious life. I'm going to live it. I hope you are too. I really, really do. Persistence is one of the next principles I want to talk about, because persistence, just like this little thing coming up off of this cracked clay, persistence is getting through even when you don't think you can get through, even when you doubt your motive, even when you're hurting so bad, you're like, I just can't possibly do it. Even when you're depressed, even when you're wiped out, you just keep going. You know, it's interesting. I told you I didn't go back to that one doctor's office. Well, of course I didn't. That's no way to tell somebody they're sick. I'm not going back there. I did do a doctor hop a little bit. I went to another rheumatologist in Boulder, Colorado. There's a great story, and that I'll tell you in a few minutes. But I went to somebody in Loveland, and he treated me for a little while. Then I went to Boulder, and he treated me for a while. What I know is persistence has to show up in my medical care. And I really don't recommend firing doctors, but I also don't recommend staying with doctors that don't listen or that don't take care of me the way I need to be taken care of. I have the owner's manual on my body. I know what's working and what isn't. I have to trust that and go like this little weed coming up through the cracked clay here. I have to be willing to bust through so I get the care that I need. When I look to wisdom, I need the medical professionals' wisdom. I need the pharmaceutical companies out there doing studies and trials. And oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I like to say I stayed alive long enough for medical science to catch up. And I'll get to that before we part today. The medical science that caught up is what caused me to be bald in that first slide you saw, and what causes me to have hair today. So I hung in there. At one point in my disease with scleroderma, I was up to 21 different meds on a daily basis. I know people understand that. And scleroderma is just one of the diseases that happens for us, you know. But for me, I was talking about trust in my gut, especially when it came to doctors. I've learned how to advocate for myself. I've learned it's okay if I make a splash in the water. I just blame it on being Italian and we move on. But one of the things I want to tell you about is trusting my gut, trusting that wisdom. I really think saved my life. When I go back to when I had that DVT back in 2003, before I got diagnosed with scleroderma, although it wasn't long after the DVT, the symptoms started, which is kind of amazing. I hear that a lot at scleroderma functions that, you know, some sort of traumatic event happens and that might be when it starts. It did for me. But What they do to treat a blood clot is they drip something called TPA. It's a very, very powerful medication straight into the vein or the artery or whatever it is to dissolve the blood clot. And in my case, they went in through the back of my leg and they let it drip for 31 hours. And they have to test you every hour to make sure you're still with them, because it can blow up all your blood vessels and cause you to bleed out very, very quickly and die quickly. It's pretty intense. And I trusted my gut while I was in there on that one. I remember telling them they had to get me off that med. And my doctor came in the room and he says, I hear you want off this med right now. I said, yeah, I got to tell you, if you don't get me off, I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to make it. I think I'm going to pass away on you. And what he did was he trusted that I trusted my gut. And I was off the drip within probably 5 minutes of telling him that. I love it when I get heard and believed. That's super, super important. When I look at wisdom, I look at where can I go to get the information I need. This conference this week, I wanted to be with you guys up in Canada like so bad, just like I'm sure you all wanted to be there together. But the amount of information that I'm sure people are taking away from doing it this way is so much better than missing it altogether. And my first scleroderma conference, I learned so much. So when it comes to wisdom, do you have a body of people in your world that you can go to get information? For the caregivers out there, do you have a peer group? Do you have a Facebook group? Do you get Caregiver Magazine? I mean, there's so many resources out there. My hope is that you're not doing it alone, that you can grab somebody's hand and walk with them through it. I have made lifelong friends as a result of a conference just like this one. The next principle I want to talk about is self-support. I'm going to talk about self-support and then I'm going to talk about asking for help because they're both important. Here's what I know. What I know is that if I didn't take care of myself and do some things for myself and instead needed 100% from my significant other, my caregiver, I don't know if he could have withstood it. Maybe. He probably would tell you he could. It's a lot to carry someone else's burden. I know that. I also was pretty darn powerless, especially the first few years with scleroderma, how sick I was. And then again, a couple of years ago. So self-support for me is, what can I do today to change the trajectory of my illness? And the answer for me is not nothing. The answer for me is there's a ton I can do. When I think there's nothing I can do for myself, I get depressed. I become a burden. I feel like I'm stuck. When I realize that my future is in my hands, at least to some degree, then I have some power. And I can get up off that couch and do what I need to do. You know, I made a list of some of the things that I did back then. Food, and I love this quote from Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. There are a lot of people that think that if the world ate better, we need a whole lot less medicine. And when I got sick with scleroderma, I can tell you I was eating garbage, not literally, but you know, things that came in wrappers with big long names and huge paragraphs, 2 paragraphs of ingredient labels, of information of what's in the food. And I had to change it. I thought, if I'm going to eat this ho-ho and I can't pronounce what made this ho-ho, I better like rethink that. So for me, for nutrition, what I did for food, what I did was I kind of made a pact within myself that if I couldn't pronounce what was on the food label, I wouldn't eat it. And food started to help my recovery from the scleroderma. See, 2005, 2006, my fingers were just horrible. The scleroderma had attacked the fingers so bad that we were looking at taking off my index fingers and possibly metals on both sides, both hands. And I started to change my food. It's one of the things I could do for myself. Another thing I could do for myself was meditate. I like praying. I like looking at a candle. I like to light a candle and stare at the flame and just sit quietly. I like to focus on my breath. I like to focus on gratitude. And then finally, I like to do all of that with community. So at the end, when we get to the end, I have a website. If you're at all interested, jump on the website, jump on my newsletter. We do a gratitude challenge every month. I don't charge for it. I'm not looking to make any money off you guys. I'm just sharing with you some of the ways that have worked for me to overcome and walk through this funky disease called scleroderma. I told you self-support's important, but so is knowing when to ask for help. I'll tell you, I hate to ask for help, because if I ask you for help and you don't help me, I'm disappointed. Now what do I do? You know, now I'm stuck. When I first got diagnosed back in 2005, I thought there's got to be a support group. I'm one of those people that believes there's a support group for everything somewhere, you know? So I'm going to go find it. And I jumped online. Boy, is that a mistake when you get first diagnosed. You look up scleroderma and it's like, holy cow. No, because the worst stuff comes up first, I swear. Every time I talk to somebody newly diagnosed with scleroderma, I say, turn off the computer, let's have a talk. Because I can authorize a free lunch. You can imagine what I can do with scleroderma. But I looked up the support group, and our primary home is in Fort Collins, Colorado, and so there is a Denver chapter of the Scleroderma Foundation in the U.S., and it's just south of the city of Denver, about an hour and a half from our home. And I told my husband, let's go. And it just so happened, see, this is seconds and inches. My life is seconds and inches. It just so happened that they were having a support day where they were doing a patient education day at National Jewish Hospital, like the following week or 2 weeks after I looked them up. And it was so close. So I said, let's go down. Let's go down and learn what we can learn. So we went to the patient education day. And I remember my husband and I were sitting behind a woman and her mother who also came to the same event for her first time. The woman's name was Cheryl. And it turns out she and I had the exact same kind of scleroderma. And she lived for 5 years. And she's been gone for more than 10. And every year at the walk, I get to see her mother and I get to give her a hug. And I get to thank her for still being of service and honoring her daughter's memory. And I get to tell her that I'm sorry that she lost her daughter. Because the truth is, scleroderma is lethal for some of us, but not all of us. I don't know why I'm lucky enough to not have been Cheryl. I don't know why I'm lucky enough to not be 12 to 18 months, but I'll take it. Asking for help at every step along the way, I think, is part of what keeps me going, if you want to know the truth. I became the support group leader for that chapter. I do the walks with that group. I kind of live in this world where I say yes a lot. And I've been able to say yes a lot with the Scleroderma Foundation. I'm really, really thankful for that, because they said yes to me when I first walked in. They said, these are the doctors we know about. They got me to a doctor in the heart of Denver who threw enough of a medical bus at my scleroderma that by 2009, I was still on a lot of meds. I was on 5 meds just for my GI tract, but I could stand up and start walking again, and I could function. I mean, that is so huge. I forgot to tell you, 2008, I did graduate college with a 2-year degree from the community college. And my daughter did graduate high school in 2009. It was remarkable to watch that, and that I didn't miss it. The next principle I'm going to talk about is honesty. You wouldn't think, oh, honesty is a big thing to talk about, you know? Well, this is who I am. I'm the person that goes to a doctor and doesn't want to tell him the whole truth. You know why? because I want the doctor to like me. So I end up with this one doctor. Before I'm in Denver, I'm to this doctor in Boulder, and we're talking, and I'm telling him about what I got, and he's telling me about what I've got, and we're having a great old session. And he goes through the whole thing. Do you drink? No. Do you do any recreational drugs? And I always say that's a common question. We're from Colorado, so that question's been around for a long time, since marijuana's been legal a long time in Colorado. And then he says, do you smoke? And at that point, I had to make a decision. Was I going to trust this doctor and tell him the God's honest truth, or was I going to try to, well, let's just call it what it was, a lie? You see, I was still smoking. It was one of my coping mechanisms. I gave up ho-hos, but I didn't give up Marlboro Reds. And the truth was, it was horrible for scleroderma. I knew it. I'm not stupid, but I knew it was hard to let go of. The doctor that I was seeing at that time, turns out, was a friend of my brother's. And I don't know if that's why he said to me what he said to me next, or if this is just how he practiced medicine, but he turned to me and he said, Betsy, I got to tell you, you got to quit. You got to quit smoking today. He said, I can't care more about your health than you do. And I realized I finally met somebody that was willing to be honest with me on a whole nother level, that was willing to get in the boat and go on the row and figure out how we were going to get through this thing together. And it made me want to quit smoking for the first time. Now, I can tell you, I haven't had a cigarette in over 12 years. That's massive for someone like me. It took me 4 years of quitting, and then, oops, I had one and quitting, and then a puff away from a carton and then quitting. But I've stayed quit now for 12 years. And to me, that's amazing. It's important to be honest with my doc. It's important to be honest with all my caregivers so that we're all on the same team. And when we talk about being on the same team, that's where unity comes in. I need every doctor to know what the other one's doing. They all need to know what's going on with their patient, Betsy. But here's what I know, and I don't know how it is in Canada. I know how it is in the US. I expect it's similar, although you guys have healthcare. Don't even get me started on that. I'll just lay that one there. But you walk into a brand new doctor, at least when I walk into a brand new doctor, I'd like a couple hours, please. I got a lot to tell you. And they don't have that kind of time. So I made some decisions, and this is where unity comes in. And the decisions were, I decided I was going to show up to the doctor's office with all the information they would need, organized, concise, and clear. Because some of the meds I was on made me really flighty. And I was on pain meds, and you guys know, scleroderma, the way it attacks, it hurts. You couldn't even touch my arms. My fingers, you couldn't put a sheet over my hands. My fingers hurt so bad. So being clear to a physician that needed the information clear, concise, and accurate in 15 minutes, I had to learn how to do that. So what I did was I did two things. I made a medical notebook and I made a one-page document. And earlier I said go to betsycraig.com. If you go to betsycraig.com, in about 2 months, I'm going to release the tabs and let everybody know what was on my tabs in that. But I made a 3-ring binder with, dividers. This is old school here, I know. But I did it so that I had all my PFTs, and I had all my CAT scans, and I had all my MRIs, and I had all my lab work, and I had all my doctor's notes. And it was in a 3-ring binder. It was 2 inches wide of paper. And I'll let you know today, I now have that in a zip file on my desktop, on my laptop. Because if I have a doctor that wants me to email it somewhere, I can just email the file. And with electronic medical records, I have the most current ones. Actually, I have 2 because I've been to 2 different areas for care. But I literally can email a doctor all of the history. So it's in their hands. So that's my medical notebook, whether it's a physical notebook or an electronic notebook, I have a notebook. The second thing I have is a one-page document, and it's not a whole page, folks. It's 6 or 7 bullets, and it's only the most important pieces of information about me. So when my new doctor walked in the room down in Denver, when I had gone through Loveland, Fort Collins, and Boulder, the local rheumatologist, and finally they said, you got to go to Denver. You got to go to this medical center that's a teaching hospital that you can get more help at. I walked in with a half a page of a piece of paper and my notebook. And I said, here, this is what you need to know about me, and had my main facts. And I remember Dr. C looked at me and he said, how did you know this would help? I said, because I know you only have 15, 20 minutes for me. And I need you to hear the most important things. And then I need you to help me get my life back, because I'm not ready to go. And I know that you can help me do that. Because I was living in gratitude at that point, and because I had trust, and he helped me get there. So, like I said, I will be going into more detail offline later on that. And along those lines, since I can't do a Q&A with you, like this is the weirdest keynote I may have ever given. Like I'm talking to a circle and I'm believing you guys are hearing me. So if you have questions for me, you can put them in the chat and I'll try to get a hold of those, or you can hit me up on my website. I never talk about my website this much, but it's the only way you can reach back if you have a question for me, or if you want to follow what I'm doing.
Betsy, we do have the Q&A open. And so
Cool.
if anyone has questions right now, I'm happy to call those out to you and help you go through them. We don't have any in the chat right now. But,
okay, I've just left them stunned, haven't I? Okay.
But then all the best kinds of ways. So
yeah, I can't even see faces, so I don't even know. I'm just gonna go with somebody's still here. You just spoke to me, so that's a win. Welcome to the world of Zoom. Okay, so we'll just keep going. We've got a few more here, and then we get to close out this wonderful week you all have had together, and I got to be a small part of. What an honor and a privilege. The next principle I have, and I have 2 more principles to talk through. One is integrity. You know, integrity is a pretty basic spiritual principle, if you would, a life principle. For me, integrity shows up with saying yes. This is a walk in Denver, and I'm down in the first row with no hair. And the guy to my right is the guy that runs the Scleroderma Foundation in the US. And the gal to my left in that yellow shirt is the woman that I met at that patient education day in 2005. Forgive my tears, but you people that are helping us with scleroderma, or whatever the disease is, this scleroderma conference, and so I really relate, you're saving our lives. You're giving me the tools I need to be a better version of Betsy long-term, so that I'm still here in 2020 and going strong. So every time I see Cindy's face, it makes me cry, because I know that she helped save my life. So integrity for me is saying yes. People said yes to me. Yes, I'll help you. Yes, I'll take your call. Yes, I'll get you into that doctor in Denver. Yes, yes, yes. So I started saying yes. I started saying yes to strangers I didn't know, because they heard of my story and they heard I had this weird disease called scleroderma, and they'd say, would you talk to my friend who's in the ICU in Florida? I'm like, yes. Will you talk to this one? Yes. I mean, that's what I do. Saying yes is what has saved my life. I'm going to take you through the journey of the next couple of years. So 2000, I didn't give you my business story, and I didn't give you a bunch of stuff. I wrote a book. It's all about these principles and how I went from believing I was going to die to not, to this $1 million company. I get to do really, really cool stuff. If you look me up on YouTube, I gave a different talk about 1.5 years ago, and I included some of the business stuff. I really just wanted to touch hearts, not on the business stuff, but on how these principles got me through scleroderma and get me through every day with scleroderma. and how I get to do service back and thrive as a result. So I keep using the term seconds and inches, seconds and inches. 2010, my husband and I started a business called Menu Trimfo. We do nutrition for restaurants, but Menu Trimfo really exists so that the public can eat safely with food allergies and confidently with nutrition information. That's why we exist. My journey with food and getting better with scleroderma played out. We got a great business idea. We launched a great business. The business is still going. The business is doing quite well, even with COVID. And you know, we're just 10 and a half years. It'll be 11 years in February. So 10 and a half years we've been in business. In 2016, 15 and 16, my interstitial lung disease was so bad. I don't know if anybody in the room can relate, but I was needing oxygen a lot. By 2017, I could make it up about 4 steps, and then I had to stop. And the woman you see in the picture here, down on the bottom right, is a woman named Eileen. And I knew Eileen personally, and then we stayed in touch through Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Unstoppable Betsy Craig, and you're welcome to follow me there. But Eileen and I became Facebook friends, and with her scleroderma, she had it for a bunch of years. And then all of a sudden, she had some stuff going on with her right foot. And she ended up losing her leg from above the knee down from her scleroderma. And it's her story, and I share it with her blessing and permission, but I also don't share much of it. It's her story. But as her friend, I watched her walk through that, and I talked to her through it, and I loved her through it. And in 2017, I was using oxygen to get around. And I said to my husband, I said, and that's my husband there on the left, Rocky. I said, hey, Rock, there's a scleroderma walk in downtown Denver. Let's go walk for Eileen. He said, okay, do you think you can do it? Because like I said, I was on oxygen, 4 steps and stop, 4 steps and stop. I said, you know, I think I can. Let's give it a try. So we signed up for the walk, raised a little bit of money, and 10 days later went down to Denver to do the walk. The walk is around a loop. You basically make 4 runs around this loop to equal the 5K. I made 1 loop, and that's all I could do. And I thought, well, you know what? I showed up, I raised some money. We got there. In fact, that yellow shirt my husband's wearing in the picture, on the back, it has Eileen's name. It says, I walk in honor of Eileen. And I'm sitting there listening to people give, you know, the speeches. They thank the sponsors. This person did the most money. Yay, yay. This is the biggest team. Yay, yay. And a woman stood up. Her name's Jill. And she said, hey, we need to know if anybody knows any politicians. We're trying to get legislation through Capitol Hill in DC. And we want, you know, to get in touch with people. So I went up to Jill after and I said, hey, you know, I know this guy and he's a senator. So maybe I can help you. And I remember this like this was yesterday. It was June of 2017. And she says, yeah, I'd really like to meet him, but why are you panting? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, you're really having trouble breathing. Do you have scleroderma? And she's holding my hands, which is amazing because my hands used to give it away totally. But over time, they got a little bit softer. They were still pretty hard, but I said, yeah, I have scleroderma. And she said, why are you panting? And I said, because I have scleroderma. I thought it was pretty gutsy for her to even ask me that, you know? And she said, why don't you get stem cell transplant? I said, what's that? She went on to explain that she had been through it 2.5 years before. She went to Chicago and she tried to get into this program at Northwestern with this one particular doctor, and she did. And she felt like it saved her life. Well, as luck would have it, by seconds and inches, and a narrow miss, because I almost didn't go do the walk. I knew I couldn't walk, and I hadn't done the walks for years because my lungs were getting worse, but Eileen lost her legs, so I went and did the walk. And then Jill grabs my hand and says, what about stem cell? A week later, I had a doctor's appointment. It was my 3-month checkup with my scleroderma doctor. And I said to him, I'm like, Jason, what about stem cell? And he said to me, I don't know, Bets, you've had it a long time. You're getting, I don't know about your age. And I listened to him and I got persistent. And I said, will you put me in for it? He goes, yeah, I'll put you in for it. He goes, I think I got somebody's email. I can send him an email and see if they'll take you. He did that. That was the summer of 2017. I got a phone call in August and they did a review over the phone. Then they said, can you send us all your information? I said, yeah, do you want it in paper or electronically? Because you see, through my unity principle, I had all my ducks in a row. I'm just wicked organized that way. And they said, we'll take it both ways. So before that evening, they had already gotten an electronic version and I FedExed them a notebook. And they called me, I don't know, maybe 2-3 days later, and they said, can you come to Chicago for an in-person review? We want to interview you. We want to have you go through a bunch of medical tests. So I went to Chicago in 2017, October 2017, and I went through 4 of the worst days of my entire life. I have never been put through that much before or since, to be quite frank. It was hard. And on day 3 out of those 4 days, I met Dr. Burt, who no longer does stem cell transplant, but he did it at that time. And he starts talking to me and telling me that he thinks I have PH as well as ILD. I thought, oh, goody. I've now got 3. I got the hat trick of diseases. And then he starts talking about how he's going to use the heart safe protocol on me. And my heart just leapt. I think that's the only time in my life I felt my heart leap, but my heart leapt. I was like, you just accepted me into the program. He said, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I just sat there in full, unbelievable gratitude that there might be hope for this treatment for someone like me. What I want to let you know is I went through stem cell transplant on April 11th of 2018. I was given my own stem cells, or my own cells back into my body, stem cells back into my body, because my immune system was shot to 0. So they became brand new immune cells and my life changed. The picture you see with Rocky rubbing my feet is the day I got my stem cells back. It's my 2nd birthday. That's Betsy 2.0. The hospital, Northwestern in downtown Chicago, overlooked a museum. That's the stairs you're looking at in the middle picture. I told Rocky, I said, my husband, when we get out of this hospital, I want to go to this museum. He's like, okay, hon. I said, no, I really, really do. It's like, all right. And I had to mask up and hoodie up and do stuff I'm doing now for COVID. I had to do because I had no immune system. But I said, let's go to this museum. We went to the museum. We walked up all those stairs. And at the top of the stairs, he grabbed my hands and he says, honey, do you know what you just did? I said, what are you talking about? I was really excited to get into this museum. He said, you just walked up 32 stairs without stopping. So the results of my stem cell have been amazing. Again, I'm going to lead you towards betsycraig.com because I blogged about it the whole way through it. It's not in my book. My book came out while I was in stem cell, but, and not everybody qualifies and not everybody can do it. I got lucky enough to be able to. That little girl that I wanted to watch graduate high school, that's her. The picture in the front is her bridal shower. The picture towards the back is my husband and I dancing, with her dancing in front of us at her wedding in Tuscany, Italy, August of last year. I didn't miss any of it. She graduated high school, college, grad school, married a wonderful, wonderful man. And I got to sit in the front row of all of it. Why am I lucky and Cheryl wasn't? I don't know. But I will tell you, I will tell this story to groups that have scleroderma, to groups that have other autoimmune diseases, to anybody that will listen. I'll end with this story. I was asked last year to be a closing keynote at the National Scleroderma Conference in Chicago for the US, which I thought was just amazing because my scleroderma doc was telling, he had a session and I was there. My buddy Eileen was there. My buddy Cindy was there. And I stood up and I talked about getting up off the couch. And I talked about it's always no unless you ask. And I talked about how I walked through what I walked through and just shared openly my story. I just don't have a whole lot of filter. I share openly. I did pray before I opened my mouth that I didn't share too openly. There's a lot of craziness going on today. So trying to use that filter on some of that, but I shared openly. And I was talking about laying on that couch, having to make the decision to get up or give up. And that was a really hard decision. And afterwards, and we were there in person, and Rocky had some books and we sold some books there. And, part of every book goes back to the Scleroderma Foundation and all this. And a woman comes up to me and says, "Hey, will you come over to the table?" It was the Denver support group, and there was a gal there that bought the book, and she wanted me to sign it for her. So of course I will. She was in a wheelchair. She'd been diagnosed 18 months before. She'd been in the wheelchair for quite a while. She felt she couldn't walk. Her body told her she couldn't walk. She was deteriorating before her lover's eyes. And I signed the book. I just said, be unstoppable. Go be unstoppable. And in my heart, I'm like, how can I help this woman? And she leans over and she grabs my arm and she whispers in my ear and she said, "I got to get off the couch." I said, "Okay, if you don't, you're going to die." She said, "I know." About 45 days later, I got a phone call from somebody who had been at that month's scleroderma support group. And they said, "We just want to let you know. She came to the support group today. She walked in on her own feet, no wheelchair. And she said, 'I'm getting off the couch.' If you're on the couch, get up. Don't give up. You won't be disappointed." Thank you for letting me share. Please reach out if you have intimate or private or want to ask questions, or I can help you in any way. I thank you, John. I thank you. I forgot your name, who's helping me with all of the technology. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betsy. It was such a privilege to have you with us. You're such an inspiration. You can see we don't really have any questions here, just countless comments. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. It was so nice to meet you. All of these lovely, lovely comments. And it's nice to hear that you've shared that also you said it's on YouTube? Your journey is, yeah. So that's fantastic. So if anyone's interested to follow you there and see, especially your stem cell story, what a privilege that we would have to see that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, the stem cell story is going to be on the website. So you go to Betsy Craig. Oh, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
If you go to betsycraig.com. Yep. If you go to betsycraig.com, in my blog, I blogged all the way through stem cell.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so
and pictures and everything. Oh.
Well, I mean, I bless you for doing that, because it's would be such a trying time, and for you to have the foresight and the desire to want to share that is so incredible. So thank you. Truly, such an inspiration. We're so lucky to have had you.
Thank you.
All right, Betsy, I'll let you get back to the rest of your day. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. It's Thanksgiving for us here in Canada, so coming, but
wonderful.
But maybe
I give thanks for you.
Oh, well, and
thank you so much.
Thank you. You take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.